Good evening, everyone. I'm Manish Samnani. I run a center called Soch in National Capital Region of Delhi. And with me today for this FB Live program is Ms. Joanne Lara. Joanne is traveling all the way from US for a 5-day conference here at ICDDRB, jointly organized by Faith Bangladesh, ICDDRB and Soch. Joanne is an executive director of Autism Movement Therapy Incorporation. She is also the executive director of Autism Works Now, an organization that works for jobs and vocational training of adolescents and adults in the US. Joanne is also an adjunct faculty for the National University. She has an innovative program for children with special needs of all age groups, and we will talk about her program and her innovations in detail, along with our main theme, jobs and vocational training. Yeah. Joanne and I here are together here at Faith, and Faith Bangladesh is a center for children with special needs. It provides direct clinical services to all children who approach them at the center and give them need-based services. Faith Bangladesh is also involved with research and education. It is also involved with awareness and training programs so that capacity can be built up for professionals and for parents throughout the country. And Faith Bangladesh is also a pioneer in introducing technology into the healthcare and therapy services. So I welcome Joanne to Faith Bangladesh office, and let's hope that we get a lot of new insights from you today. We are doing this FB Live program. We are inviting questions we will soon receive from people all around India, Bangladesh, and anywhere else.
Fantastic.
And we'll continue with the discussion. Joanne, first tell us, what is your 5-day conference that you are doing here at the moment at ICDDRB in joint collaboration with Faith Bangladesh and Soch, and what was your personal contribution to the 5-day program?
So my contribution to the 5-day Expressive Arts Conference was Autism Movement Therapy, which is a movement and body-brain based method of movement and music for individuals with autism. And on Saturday, I'll be presenting on ABA, Applied Behavior Analysis. So I'm covering kind of two ends of the sticks, if you will. One is expressive arts, and then the other end would be the behavior piece. But as we know, all kids with autism who have an eligibility of autism have some kind of behavior. So it should be applicable for everyone in the audience and who's watching the Facebook Live. Yeah.
Coming to the theme for today, Joanne, we know that the early intervention services are very important and are said to be, we say that the more earlier, the better for children with having difficulties. But of course, the nature of the disability is such that it might be much more residual in nature, much more pervasive in nature, and then the children grow up.
That's right.
What are your thoughts about children when they grow up? What should we call them? What should we do for them?
Well, that's a big question, but a good question. One, they all grow up, and what I always like to say to parents and caregivers is, take the child now where they are, say they're 5 years old, add 10 years to that, and what do you see? And if you see inappropriate social behaviors that are not going to serve the child in a community setting, in a home setting, in a school setting, then we want to roll up our sleeves and get to work on behavioral and kind of nip it in the bud, which we can do. It's easy to do.
Sure. Joanne, do you think there's really kind of a transition like any other regular children have transitioned when they are growing up from they have their school years, and then they transition to teenager and adolescence, and then they transition to adulthood? With children, since they are always supported, taken care by the family systems, and the family systems are such in this region, in India and Bangladesh and neighboring countries, that we are inherently committed for our lifetime to our children. we never send them out of our houses, even if they are grown ups, even if they are independent. For children who have difficulties, we have even more commitment to them in a way, and we kind of we are completely protective about them. Do you think these children actually have a transition?
Well, you see, I don't agree with any of that. And I think that it would be great if all over Asia we could begin to see transitioning, meaning a child making a transition from one place to another, the definition of transition. If we could see and work towards independence and self-determination in each one of those transitions, and transitioning meaning from when they're young to preschool, preschool to school, and then within the school structure, middle school, high school, and then transitioning out of high school into what? Vocational center, job. What we really want is to think of them having a job. And if you don't have the independence and self-determination, and you're being coddled and you're 22, and it's all a great idea that the family's taking care, and I don't mean to negate that the family shouldn't support and love the child. What I'm looking for is the ideology of independence and self-determination in order for this child to get from here at 3 years old to a job when he's 22. And he's not going to do it if he's still holding on to his mom's hand. And that's what we have here,
Sure.
sadly.
Tulika Datta from Chittagong has a question about her son.
Good.
And his son, Aryan, is 8 years, ASD, nonverbal. Since last 3 to 4 years, he keeps biting onto his fingers of hand and feet. He peels the scrambled skin. And since last 3 to 4 months, he has started to bite his hand and fingers along with creating E and R kind of sounds. Whenever he wants to escape from the task or deny something or wants to do something, he does this even more. He also has a history of myoclonic epilepsy from last 3 months, and he's on a medication. She would like to know from you if you have any advice about her son's self-injurious behavior.
That's right. He has SIB, self-injurious behavior. He's 8 years old. The biting of the hands and the feet and the peeling of the skin, self-injurious behavior is sensory-driven. So he's sensory-driven. Does he have language? Did you say nonverbal? Nonverbal. All right, so we need a lot for him. What we need is, and is he going to school? I need to know that. Does he go to a structured environment or is he at home all day? If he's at home all day, you really want to think about how you can create learning centers within your home if he's not going to school, and time them so that at 1 hour in this area, then make him transition to another area where he does something different, and then in another area where he does something different, take time out for a lunch so that you begin to make structure in the home. Self-injurious behavior, as I said, is sensory-driven. So if you don't have anything to do, and you like the way it feels when you bite your hand and your toes and peel the skin off, that's what you're going to do. So you're going to have to replace that behavior with a more meaningful behavior for him. The arts are great for that. You could have an art center in your home where you could start to work with him with, if he didn't eat it, clay, paints. You should have a sensory seeking area for him, maybe a small trampoline, a little trampoline like you get. I know you have one of those at your centers, I saw it. So one of those small trampolines where he can get on and he can bounce and he can fulfill that sensory seeking behavior that he's looking for. And then try to, if you can, get him in a school, get him in a structured environment, get OT. He needs all the services, OT, speech and language, and behavior, ABA. Get all the services.
And we need to also take care of the skin being broken down at the moment, I guess, because the first thing should be to protect
you can put
the integrity
gloves.
of the skin.
She can put gloves on. You can find some gloves, get gloves and put them on. Many of our kids do wear, kids that have SIB on their thumbs, where they'll rub this raw and it bleeds. We wrap the hand, or put a glove. I would do gloves. I would put gloves, and I would put socks on the feet. If you put socks on the feet, he's probably not going to be biting his feet, his toes. So you're going to have to kind of be one step ahead of him, but at the same time, you want to get in there and replace that behavior with a more meaningful behavior.
Yeah.
So he may be telling you he's not challenged in his home, that he's bored.
Yeah, quite possible. Another question from Jannat Ara Rifat is, there are two questions. What is the most effective ranges of ages for early intervention? And the second is, I want to know what is the maximum age for intervention for complete recovery?
All right, two questions. First one, early intervention's the key. We start intervening at sometimes 8 and 12 months in the States. So as soon as you get a diagnosis, you need to begin to seek out what kind of services you can get for that child. So with that said, there's no maximum age. I know residentials who work with adults who are 55 years old who are still working a very, very strong ABA behavior program with them. Full recovery, the jury's out on that. We don't really have what we consider to be a full recovery. We have people that are being able to, with autism, who are being able to function very well in their environments, like Stephen Shore, Temple Grandin, and lots of other individuals. Alex Plank is a friend of mine. He has wrongplanet.net. He's on the autism spectrum. He has a master's from Mason. He still has autistic characteristics, but he functions very well in society. So recovery is a dubious word, I think, when we're talking. I don't see them hand in hand with autism, in other words.
Sure. Question by Rubaya Ruba, how to treat vocal stimming?
All right, do you mean scripting? Can you see if she can answer that? Scripting, video scripting, or Disney scripting, or just echolalia?
We'll have to find out. Probably
Okay.
We'll have to find out. We'll wait for her response, and if you have something, you can.
Well, right off the bat, I would say, again, I'm such a behaviorist. ABA has verbal behavior. And if you get a good ABA person that understands verbal behavior, that is a verbal behavior. And it has to be worked with as such. In other words, what's the function of the behavior? I'm sure your child's using the scripting or stimming, verbal stimming in every setting. So that means he's using it for attention seeking, for escaping, when he doesn't want to do something. Sensory, likes the way it sounds. And tangible, he probably gets something. People maybe give him a cookie if he stops verbally stimming. But one thing I did when I was in the school setting with that, I had a little gal that had Angelman syndrome, and it very much parallels verbal scripting all the time, with a lot of laughter. I don't know if you've had an Angelman child. It's a genetic disability. But I began to, at the help with my professor at that time at Cal State Northridge, told me, audio tape her reading a book. Does she like to read? Yes, read a book. There she is with her yellow cap on, and here she has a dog, and there's her cat, and whatever. It doesn't have to, even if it doesn't have to be reading, but just going from one page to another and actually reading a book, and you're audio taping that, and you're putting it into a machine and putting headphones on her so that she's wearing the headphones and she can listen to herself. So if it's sensory driven, then you're fulfilling the function of the need of sensory by allowing her to sit down, and everybody else in the environment doesn't have to hear it all the time.
Sure.
It works very well.
Next child-specific question by Humaira Noor Andalib is that her son was non-verbal till 3, and at 5 now he's a scripter. He likes to keep telling dialogues of the animation he wants to watch, or the direction to the outdoor plays he wants to go to throughout the day. How can I use this to improve his language, and how can I make sure that he would not be limited to only what he wants to do?
Right, okay, so a couple of different pieces to that. One, if he likes to script, which is a good thing, because you're right, if he was nonverbal and now he's talking, then we like that. We want to encourage speaking. But we also want to work with that from a behavioral point of view, in that if we want him to do something, say attend a task and sit down and eat his sandwich, then he can't have access to the scripting. So he gets to script, go with me here, because it's hard, but he gets to verbally script after he performs the task that you want from him. So he sits down, he eats his sandwich, great. Now you can verbally script for the next 5 minutes. Go at it. Oh, did you know the Beauty and the Beast and the blue thing and the bell, blah, 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 blah. Did you know the Beauty and the Beast and the blue bell? Let him go at it. You don't have to stay in the room. Then come back and say, oh, 5 minutes is up. Now I want you to. So it takes a lot of commitment, because you're going to have to move him from activity to activity, but you don't want him to verbally script ad nauseum. If not, it's not going to serve a purpose. Remember, speaking is communication, and autism is a communication breakdown. So if he doesn't understand what communication is for, meaning he doesn't know that communication is between two people to exchange ideas and to get what I want, and for this person to get what they want, then he doesn't really have language. He's stemming on his own sound of his own voice and Disney characters. So that's not communication the way we want him to have it. He needs speech and language as well.
Before we go to the theme-based questions, I have another child-specific question from Jannat Ara Rifat.
Okay.
Son Nuzair is 3 years, 10 months old, has only one word for last 9 months.
Okay.
Very active, but he tries to play all alone, lines up things. They have a formal assessment through doctors, and they have put at ASD question mark or borderline. He got clean chit from doctors on brain's clinical examinations.
Okay.
Was recommended ABA and VB from Singapore, and they are looking for any recommendations for us where in Bangladesh or India we can get a comprehensive treatment and assessment.
All right, well, he sounds like he already has an assessment from Singapore, correct? It seems like everyone takes their children to Singapore. Is that right? Sounds like that.
Maybe.
Okay, that's good. Well, they know what they're doing. That's good. He sounds like he has classic autism. So with the lining up and with the no language, so he hits 2 of the criteria, which is speech and language, social, and we don't know if he has behavior. I'm assuming he probably does. You want to find a strong behavior ABA. He's young enough that you could put him in an ABA program for 2 or 3 hours a day, 2 or 3 hours a day, and probably see a lot of progress. And they're in Bangladesh. Did she say she was in Bangladesh?
Yes.
Okay. In Bangladesh, there are a number of ABA centers. In fact, at the conference, we've seen a lot of ABA people. So maybe we can give out that information for some of these centers on Saturday. I don't actually have the name of them with me. But there are centers here. You want to find a good center here, and early intervention's the key.
I'm sure even Faith Bangladesh is keen to.
That's right.
Looking for.
Maybe give a call to Faith Bangladesh and find out some of the names of the centers of people that are at the conference. We've met a number of people at the conference.
Yes, if they have. Right. So next question from Sumitra Paul from Kolkata is about, along with therapies, what is the best age for starting pre-vocational training? And should the pre-vocational training for kids be based on kids' strength and preference or choices?
Yes. It should be based on their preferences and their choices, but you want to start early. 13, 14 years old, you want to begin to say, what do they like? What do they want to do? And then make sure they have access to it. A lot of our kids love plants and being outdoors. Horticulture is something to begin to think of as a job that equates to a paycheck. We have a catering, Autism Works now is a catering company. So I have a van, and all my adults 17 and older work on the van, and it's a dessert and coffee truck. Things like that. Sometimes we have to start our own organizations in order to get what we want. Go out there and start your own business for young individuals on the autism spectrum.
That makes me come to the next question. Apart from horticulture, Joanne, what kind of jobs do you think autism people can be very successful in?
I've seen them be very successful in medical coding, because a lot of our kids are numbers kids, and they do really well with Excel sheets and putting numbers in Excel sheets for corporations. Bakery, very good. Anything that's a task analysis, where you can put a task analysis on the wall, and you do this, and you do this, and you do this. That works well. Horticulture, graphic design. Some of our kids are very talented. Give them a computer. If they like animation, make sure they have access to Adobe suites. What else? Car detailing, IT. A lot of our kids are great with technology. Horticulture, bakery. They could even be doing laundry, folding, and as Stephen talked about, for some of our more severe kids, who you could take in laundry. They could be doing laundry, folding. It could be a business. There's lots of it. But you want to see what they like. You want to make sure they like doing it.
And so, what kind of a program would you recommend for young adults to be able to make them prepared for a workforce?
Well, I love my program, which is Autism Works Now, and we do have a book. It's called Pre-Employment Skills to Jobs Training, Autism Works Now, and you can get it on Amazon. That has a lot of worksheets. If you're a school or you're a parent of an older individual, 14 and above, and you want to begin to look at the skill set that's required to get and keep a job, that's our book, and it's great, and it's for replication. We want the program replicated. But you want to think early on. We don't want to wait till someone's 22 years old and then say, oh, what do you want to do with your life? It's too old. You want to start at 13 years of age, beginning to let them have access. Vocational training is the way to go. Vocational centers. Bring back vocational centers. Teach these guys how to do something when they're 13 and 14, and by the time they transition, or as we talked about transitioning, move in from the end of public school system into the community in their homes, then they can get a job, or it equates to a paycheck.
So I'm jumping on to child-specific questions that we keep receiving on the FB Live, and we'll keep on juggling between the two things.
Okay.
This is Ifat Jahan Chaudhary from Dhaka, and her daughter is 8 years old, and recently she had a teeth decay and cavity, which took some time for them to realize that it is that, and she kind of suffered for 5 months because of the teeth decay, because they did not realize it. And she's in the phases of teeth losing, gets into phases of tooth losing all the time.
Right.
All these things are making them obviously a little anxious, and they do not want to, they kind of feel bad about seeing their child into that phase of teeth losing. How can the parents reduce her anxiety, and as it also affects the natural eating habit of the child?
Exactly. Well, here's the thing. You're the parent. You have to make your child brush their teeth. We have a lot of problems with our kids. They don't want the toothbrush in the mouth. You know that, you're OT. So they do this, and finally the parent goes, never mind. They need to be brushing their teeth 2 times a day, just like everybody else. Because if you don't, that's what you get. And if she's 8 years old and she's losing her teeth, that's not a good sign. That means she has gum disease, and that she's got cavities. She doesn't have proper dental hygiene. That has to, there's no turning that around. You just have to start brushing your teeth. And if you can't get the toothbrush in the mouth and she doesn't want it, we need OTs. That's what OTs do. And they're very good at that. They know how to present things to be put into the mouth, and they know how to progress and do that scaffoldedly. But you do it because she will lose her teeth. She will lose her teeth. And she won't be able to eat, and you'll just have to puree all of her food. And it's not a good thing. So it's not a good thing.
Yeah.
And it's a behavior. Not wanting the toothbrush in the mouth is a behavior.
Another child-specific question from Naima Tapashi Luna is that her daughter, who is around 4.5 years old, and she keeps repeating every word that the mother tells her to say.
Yeah, right. Well, it's called echolalia. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's the beginning of speech and language. So.
And her question then is she going to talk fluently, or is there anything that she can do about it? Is there any possibilities for her to become normal? Can she become normal by any chance?
Okay, so, what is normal is what I say. So, I think we want to throw out that. We just want her to be as successful as she can be. Echolalia is the beginning of speech and language. So actually, imitation is a form of, as they say, a form of flattery. So she's just flattering her mother by saying everything her mother says. You want a good speech and language path that can take her past that, absolutely. I don't talk about recovery, and I don't know her, so I can't say that for sure she's going to have speech and language. I can say that most children that I've worked with, I was in the public school system for 10 years in LA Unified School District. So I had a lot of children who were moderate to severe kids with autism, and many of them didn't have language and had echolalia, and they did talk. So my experience is they move into speech, yeah.
Supporting your thing on normal should be thrown out. We met Stephen Shore, and I think he's somebody who is on the spectrum. Always wears a cap and a sandal, but I guess the kind of a success that he has now probably puts all so-called normal people to shame. Yeah. And travels all around the world in 45 countries, maintains a profile. So yes, of course, the normal should of course be thrown out. Another question by Rubaya Ruba is that her child always keeps licking and chewing inanimate objects. Mm-hmm. She knows it's sensory, and she has tried chew tube, chewing a necklace, motor brush, ZY brush, but there's no improvement yet. What can she do now?
Again, a behavior, and it's common with children with limited communication, with no language. So also, like I told the parent today who I was with, you might want to check for trace elements. It sounds like it's metals, and if she's going for metal, then you want to see if she's lacking a mineral. Many kids eat dirt, they eat sand, they eat metal, they eat erasers. You look at what she's eating and what she's going towards. Also, it's sensory, probably, putting her tongue on a metal thing, but you got to be careful. Because, well, here you don't have snow and ice, but on the East Coast in the United States, the kids will do that, and they have to go get hot water and get the tongue off because it's a frozen pole. But one, I would do trace elements if you can. So that's what'd you say?
A test for trace elements to say whether there's a deficiency.
Because it could be pica, P-I-C-A, and it's a behavior. So you're going to work with a good ABAist can help you with that as well.
So coming back to our theme of jobs and vocational, do you think that the employers or prospective employers of our children having difficulties would also need any kind of training?
Absolutely. Listen, it's not an easy street. We're still doing it for the first time in the United States. We're doing a good job of it. We have 80% unemployment with kids with autism, all people with autism in the States. And that's why the movement has been so successful. But you have to get out there and educate your organizations. That means you need to get teams together, and you need to start having what we call lunch and learns. See if you can go into the organization, and when they have a lunch, go in and do a lunch and learn, where you're teaching, this is what autism is, this is what you expect. But when you hire individuals with autism, you're going to see this. You're going to see a person that shows up every day with bells on, will do their job. You won't have to train them and then next week they're gone, because they like repetition and coming back to do their job. And they're very successful. I mean, they're great employees, but the employers don't know. So you do have to do some due diligence about what it's like to hire individuals with disabilities and what to expect. And then you've got to get these organizations to start hiring. I say here, they have a lot of, don't they have a lot of industry here?
A lot of industries here.
Yeah. So do they have car industry, like Volkswagen? I know in India do we have that in Bangladesh?
Most probably they would.
Yeah. So, hit up these big organizations. Go out and find somebody who has a child with autism who's the big COO. Get them on your side and start talking about older individuals getting jobs. And I bet you'll get some of your kids in there. You just have to start, it's like you have to crawl before you can walk. But it's possible. And I think it's kind of a next step that you want to look at here. You want to look at the big picture. First, you have to get this in Bangladesh, you need to get the kids in schools. So you need special ed curriculums where teachers can get a credential at a university, go to school not for one course, I'm talking 4 years, so you can learn how to be a special educator. You're spending the most time with anybody else, the teacher is with the child. 4 6 hours a day. They need to know what they're doing. They need to be credentialed.
Relating to it, this question by Joanne Lara Rifat is how to find the domain of interest for the special child to administer vocational training.
The domain of interest. Well, there are vocational interest assessments, and you can find them online. GIST, J-I-S-T, has the most comprehensive assessment tools for figuring out where an individual falls in the employment area. And they have from very moderate to severe to very high functioning individual assessments. Like some of the assessments are picture exchange communication. So you can get a handle from an individual who's maybe not so verbal what they want to do with their life. So it's J-I-S-T, GIST.
And how prepared do you think an individual with autism needs to be before they get a job?
I think it's a case by case, and I think if you find something that a child or a young person with autism likes to do, give them the opportunity to do it. Just jump in with both feet, and they might need support. They might need a work coach. We call work coaches in the United States that goes with them for a certain period of time, helps them know where they check in, where they put their lunch, what time do they take their breaks, what's expected of them. Put a work coach with them, but get them working. Listen, 60 years and nothing after high school, nobody wants to wish that on anyone. At the back of your parents' house doing nothing, it shouldn't even be an option.
And how should the stakeholders, the school, the therapist, the parents, anyone who is concerned about child, has been working throughout the childhood up to the adolescent and adulthood, how should they be ready for the transition to the workforce or to the job thing?
Well, they're really the bridge, aren't they? our families, our stakeholders are the most important people in our kids' lives, from when they're little to when they're adults as well. Not saying that you want to pull out, that bridge, but I also want to say that at some point you've got to let the bird fly, and that means not coddling. You don't want to be calling the employers to see if your son can have a job there. Wrong, 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 wrong. Because who's going to give a job to a person whose mom had to call? This happens in the States too. They say, well, Joanne, I called and I asked if they would have an interview with my son, and they said no. I said, first rule of thumb, you don't call, he does. He calls the person. But then again, you need the pre-employment skills to teach the person to be able to call. And that's what we do with Autism Works Now. That's what we're doing with this program. Teaching those pre-employment skills so that the individual can be successful, make his own call. Nobody's going to give somebody whose mother called a job. They're just not going to do it. Doesn't matter where you go in the world, they're not going to do it. They're going to be, why did his mom have to call? I'm sorry, we don't have any openings.
Sure. And when a person transitions into the community or job kind of or a workforce, what other changes does he have to undergo? What other changes he has to face before he actually does this transition?
Well, we want to think about residential and where he's going to live. In the United States, we have something called, you have IEPs here. We have something embedded in the IEP when the child turns 14 called an ITP, Individualized Transition Plan, meaning what are they going to do with their life when they transition from high school, public school? What is it going to look like residentially? Where are they going to live? Community, what is their social life going to look like? Who's going to help them have friends? Nobody wants to not have friends. And then employment. So we start at the age of 14 with assessments, like I talked about, and preparing the child for residential if they're going to move out of their parents' house. Many of our kids move into residentials. They move to be with friends that are their own age. Because as they transition out of high school and stop going to school, they don't have any friends their own age. They have parents. And parents, as sad as it may seem, are going to transition themselves to the next life. And this individual is going to be left at the age of 55 or 60 going to an institution or a residential somewhere with people he doesn't know. Because the parents are gone, they passed on. So you don't really do your child a favor by keeping them in the home, keeping them coddled, cloistering them, if you will. You really want to try to see about giving them a full life, just like you or anyone else would want. So if it's a residential where they live with another person with a disability, with a 24/7 person in the home, we do that a lot. Because look, not everybody can live independently. Somebody has to cook sometimes for these young adults. Somebody has to help them wash their clothes. I mean, we want them to be as independent as they can, but they have to have someone always there. So you have a 24/7 person living in the residential. Maybe you have 2 rooms, and there are 2 people with a disability sharing, and then they're living in their own apartment. They're independent. It's a great thing.
One of the narrative, Joanne, that I get from the parents, especially from school-going parents, children, is that my child is not interested to do anything.
That's
is
right.
that he's not interested in academics and studies. Tell me, has that been your experience of parents narrating the same about adolescents and adults?
No.
Regarding their job?
I think that is a personification that parents put on their children. I think we saw that when we had, the first day of the conference, we had 6 adults, young adults, who were in school. And that was one of my first questions, I think, wasn't it, Manish? Do you want to have a job? Yes, 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 yes. These kids do want to have a job. They know what a job is. but they have to have access to being able to have the real option of having a job. So they're probably going to tell you, no, I don't want to do anything. But it has to happen in the education system, in the academic system. Has to be able to begin to, all those kids that were at the conference go to school. So they're going to school, they're going to vocational school. And the one young man went half a day to vocational school and then half a day to his job. That's the fantastic model. We have that model in the States as well. Academic would prepare the child. Then the individual, as he ages, realizes what the options are for him. So I think we don't want to take a lot of credence in the fact that he says he doesn't want to do something. We just haven't found what it is he wants to do that's a viable option for him.
Yeah. One of the other apprehensions that parents have towards transition or even thinking about work and job related areas for children is that they feel that the children having difficulties are anyhow very vulnerable towards
Have a difficulty where?
Are vulnerable towards is that they have a safety related concerns when
Being outside of the home.
being outside of the home.
Got it, okay. Okay, so that's when you bring in the job coach. That's when you have somebody that's with them, that's providing a caregiver role and going with them into the community, living with them in the residential, and going to work with them. And that's okay. Because that person should be closer in age to them than their parents. And that's an inclusive model. That's an inclusive model. Having a young person that's close to you in age, that goes with you in the community, goes with you to the job, maybe even lives in the residential with you. We have that model.
And do you think the moderate to severe kind of a category children have an equal ways or methods or opportunities as good as the milder children will have? You know, I feel that the parents would always feel that that if the child is on a little difficulties kind of a side, they probably will not even think about jobs and work and transition.
Well, I like to say everybody deserves the option to work. So in my book, nobody is left out. And it's important that we make sure that the moderate to severe population does have access to job training. They do just as well as everybody else, but they have to have access to it. So that's, again, vocational training, vocational centers. You've got to start lobbying your government. Go to your prime minister. I keep saying it. Go to your prime minister. Take a meeting with her with a group of advocates and tell them that you want credentialed teachers that come out of universities to be teaching and working with your kids in the school system. It's got to start in the school system. It really does. You can't start up here. You got to start where these kids are learning, where these kids are able to be successful is in a school system. But your school system doesn't support them. So until you get your school system with credentialed teachers supporting these kids, whether they're severely autistic or mildly autistic, it's not going to, there's going to be a big hole in the model. And that's what it is right now. There's a big hole. Got to get to these government people and get these people on your side. Explain that there's 1 in 40 individuals with autism. Explain that it's going to cost them more to take care of these kids. Oh, they don't take care of these kids. They're not responsible and they don't give any money, I guess. Is that correct?
Here in
Bangladesh.
India and Bangladesh, I think families really, own children.
All on their own.
All on their own and throughout the life.
Yeah, so take another meeting with another group of people and get that government supporting and getting these services for these kids. They should be paying for speech and language. They should be paying for respite for the parents to go out to dinner once a week and have a good time, and also go shopping without having to have their child with them, because it's very hard. They should be paying for speech and language. They should be paying for ABA. They should be paying for residential if that child wants to transition into a residential setting. They should be paying for vocational centers in this school, in the school system, and they should be paying for credentialed teachers to teach their kids. You got a lot of work to do here. There's a lot of work to do. But you know what? The parents are the ones that make that happen. Get into a group, have support groups, do advocacy groups. Get yourself with a bunch of very, very determined mothers, and you will see a change. Because they'll be like, oh no, the mothers are coming again. What do they want? What do they want this time? That's how you do it. That's how they did it in India. I talked the same way when I went to India in 2012. And they're getting things in India now.
I'm sure there are a bunch of, or maybe more than that, committed mothers who will one day come together, and they're already doing it.
In India, they're coming together. They need to do it here.
Yeah, sure. But on the other hand, Joanne, I would also inform you that a lot of jobs are in the India and the neighboring countries are also seen as not like jobs that earn you real value and respect. Say, for example, doing dishes maybe, or doing laundry would not be seen as having the same kind of a respect as doing computers.
That's right.
But
you want to know what I think about that?
But the children,
I think you shouldn't put your own value system on your children. And I think that your child might be very, very happy washing dishes and going to a job and earning a paycheck. You might not be. And that might not be something that you would entertain as a job for yourself, but that doesn't mean that that's not going to make your kid happy. And I think we have to stop looking at jobs that way. They do it in the States too. And I say to the parent, it's not about you. Yeah, you've got a college degree and you've got a master's and you're not going to be washing dishes somewhere. But that might be the perfect thing for him. He might like getting up every day, going to work, having some friends, getting a paycheck, and doing his work. That might be just the thing for him. So stop putting your own value system on your children.
Joanne, tell us more about your Autism Works Now program. How and what is it doing for the community of young adults with autism?
I'm very proud of the program. We started it 4 years ago with Temple Grandin, a big kickoff in Los Angeles. Temple Grandin and Friends, Autism Works Now. We're in our 4th year. We have a book that's for replication. I keep saying it. I want you to go out, get the book, replicate it. And if you need my help, you'll call me. We'll give the number, or you'll Facebook me and message me and say, we want to bring you over for you and your director to teach us how to set up the program. That's what we do. Susan and I replicate. We have a 1-day workshop where we can replicate that program for you and help you do it in your own communities. But the important thing is get started at wherever level you are. You don't have to wait for me. You can read the book. You can start having with other parents, getting your adult kids together once a week, 2 hours, preparing them for jobs. Just do your work. Just become an activist. But the program itself is called Autism Works Now. You can go to the website, autismworksnow.org. You'll see a lot of information there. We also have gloriouspies.org, glorious, Glorious, pies.org. You'll see the kids working. That is the companion sister program to Autism Works Now. Autism Works Now, they come every Thursday, 2 hours in an academic setting, and they learn all the skill set that we think is important in order to get and keep a job. Glorious Pies is the job. It is the catering company. And they work and they get a paycheck. And they're happy. And we are changing lives because of it. So most of our kids that work on that, on Glorious Pie's truck, have severe autism. They take the orders, they process the money, they talk customer service to the people. It's a fantastic thing. It's amazing. So go out and start your own company too. You don't have to wait for somebody to give your kid a job. Start your own company.
So if somebody wishes to, kind of start a program that first prepares the young adult for a job and then offers or gets them a job into the work sector, what would you say as a pathway or step 1, 2, 3 for such
Just
a
like I
program?
said, I would meet once a week and get a group of kids. We started with four kids, and now we have 12, and we have to turn people away because we have a big, long boardroom table, and everything's on Google Docs. Everything is technology. We got a big grant 2 years ago, and I bought everybody Chromebooks. So they all have Chromebooks. They're all working on Chromebooks. They're working with Google Docs. They all have Gmails. And we do a field trip once a week where we go to, once a month, where we go to a different organization in the community. So we're showing them what work looks like. Some of them don't understand job. So we got to show them what is a job. We visit different organizations, and they get to meet with the director, ask the questions, and take a tour. We've been to Best Buy, Marriott Hotels, HR, Fox Television, FX Television, Actors Gang. It goes on and on and on. So you can create the same program here, which is why we wrote the book. And again, I'm happy to say, we're happy to come back and help you set up that program and replicate the program.
Thank you for the offer.
Yeah.
So, Joanne, also tell us something about your sister program, the Autism Movement Therapy,
Yeah.
for which you are.
That's a
here
big brother.
That's a big brother.
It started first.
It
It started
started.
10 years ago. We're 10 years old now. Can't even believe it. We're 10 years old. I started Autism Movement Therapy because I was a teacher in LA Unified School District, and I taught 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, and 6th, 7th, and 8th, and then the older kids in community-based instruction. I taught 10 years. All kids with autism, moderate to severe. My credential is a moderate to severe education specialist. So I am specialized to work with kids with disabilities, deaf and hard of hearing, emotionally disturbed, vision impaired, traumatic brain injury. I have a master's in moderate to severe and multiple disabilities. But what I found in my classroom was that the kids, I said, I'm throwing out all the rules, I'm doing what I want. I need a computer for every kid. What, a computer for every kid? Yeah, I need a computer for every child. Programmed that computer for where that child was in language arts and math. Then I said, I'm going to start playing music all day long, instrumental music, like Brazilian music and Asian music and African music, but no lyrics, on my little CD player. We had music playing all the time. We'd move all the chairs over and we did yoga. This is in 2000. This is almost 20 years ago. And I started seeing my kids who came to me rolling on the floor and stimming on the lights, who weren't talking. 2 years later, leaving, will you be going to middle school with us, Ms. Lara? Talking, assisting in general ed classrooms. And I said, bingo, it's about the music and the movement. And when I get out of the public school system, I'm going to develop a program specifically for them. I have a degree in dance, and I know how powerful dance is. I'm going to develop a program for these guys. And I did. And it took off like hotcakes. Nobody was doing expressive arts for kids. Temple Grandin immediately backed me, and I got to put Temple Grandin, like, approved. Temple Grandin thinks this is the cat's meow. And now all of a sudden I was getting speaking engagements, and can you bring that program here? And I put a workshop. I was like, bring that program here. I don't even put together a 2-day, 10-hour workshop. And I've done, to date, 70 of those globally in the last 10 years. So there are a lot of people all over the planet who've had exposure to autism movement therapy, the movement and music brain-based program. There's a book for that as well, and it's called Autism Movement Therapy, Waking Up the Brain. You can buy it on Amazon. You can buy both of my books on my autismmovementtherapy.org website in the store, along with the DVDs, Generation A and Autoaerobics DVDs. I have a lot of product.
So apart from speech, language, and communication kind of outcomes, what other outcomes have you achieved by the Autism Movement Therapy program, and in what kind of children? What diagnosis of children?
Kids started talking. That was the first thing. I was like getting calls saying, I'm using your Autoaerobics DVD and my child is starting to talk. I was like, really? That's fantastic. I knew it happened in a school setting, but I didn't know if it would happen with the program, a dance program, specifically. So I was very thrilled about that. Behaviors are going to fall away. As soon as a child becomes acclimated to a social environment and knows how to be in it, then the behaviors are going to fall away. Behaviors come because I don't know what to do in this environment. There's so many things here, I can't focus. So once you get the child able to sit and focus and take in the variables in the environment, or what I call waking up the brain, getting the brain to do its job. The brain knows how to do its job. We don't have to teach a baby how to use its brain. It's not like we have to teach somebody how to use a computer. We don't have to teach somebody how to use their brain. The brain is the control center. Brain already knows what it's supposed to do. We have to give it the option of doing that. And then for our children with autism, because they have a neurological impairment, it's not a disease. I heard that word used here. It's not a disease. It's a neurological impairment that is not allowing the child to access the lobes of the brain and those lobes to do the job of what it's supposed to do. Once we can line that up, then we can get a child that can be successful.
Sure. Joanne, you talked about a slogan, I think, that you have given, bring back the vocational centers. And what our experience has been like from the time we received our education towards other years when we were practicing, is that the model of vocational training centers that we have at present is predominantly, centering towards intellectual disability. And so the kind of training being provided, the kind of competencies that trainers have are all more towards intellectual disabilities, with the the soap making, the candle making, the envelope making.
Yeah.
How should, or
We're
what
up
should be
against
the
that
model?
in the States too.
What should be the model?
The model should be a real hands-on
center.
working vocational center. I was on Hillary Clinton's Disability Employment Task Force team for a year before when she was running for president, for a year. And we met every Wednesday on a group telephone call from all over the country. So I got another insight into what happened to vocational centers in the United States. And they look the same probably as what you're talking about. In 1912, they were started because the federal government feared, because women and men were beginning to go to secondary education, college, and universities, they feared that there would not be the blue-collar workers, the road construction people, the iron people, the fix a car, fix plumbing, fix electricity, all these things. So they began vocational centers in the schools across the country. So if you weren't academically inclined and you weren't going to go to college, your other option was to learn a skill set that equated to a paycheck, and the federal government won. It was a win-win because we were still going to have plumbers and electricians and farmers and all the other things that are what we consider blue-collar workers in the United States. Well, when Bush came into office in 2000, the first thing he did was take away the vocational centers. The way he did it was he didn't mean to do this. This is what happened as a result of No Child Left Behind. He said our teachers were not highly qualified, and he wanted highly qualified teachers only, all the way across the education system in the country. So what happened was the people that were in vocational centers that were teaching agriculture, woodworking, metalworking, plumbing, electricity in the vocational schools, they didn't have the credentials. They were just artisans that were good at their job. And when they began the attrition rate, when they tenured out, they weren't replaced because you would be hard-pressed to find a woodworker with a degree, a master's degree in woodworking, and an educational credential. So that's what happened to the vocational centers. So now we have to bring them back. And that's what my information to Hillary was talk about bringing back vocational centers, and she was talking about that towards the end of the campaign. I was very happy. So we still have work to do in that area in the States.
I think the other kind of a strong school of thought that we have to face in parents regarding the vocational training or vocational centers is that they somehow feel that the vocational centers, vocational training are just the other side of academics, mainstreaming, schooling. And they feel somehow that if you are asking me to choose on vocational training, you are actually denying me the academics, my right for my child for academics, mainstream schooling. And why should I do that? If I can provide for my child's education in the best of the school, irrespective of what his level is. Probably his level is bright, and I would like to continue him in the college and higher education.
Well, first off, I would say it's not about you, because you know that's one of my favorite phrases. It's not about you, it's about the child. And second, I would say, well, you know what, a lot of the European structure of academics have been doing just that for the last 100 years, and they've been doing it very successful. So you have assessments. If you go to school in Germany, you get assessed all the time. And every assessment, it takes you to either an academic pathway or to a vocational pathway. That's a way to do it so that there's not a choice. The choice is made in the assessment of the child. Number two, I would say that here in Bangladesh, what I'm seeing is jumping to the full inclusion because someone told them that that's the right way to go. And I think it's case by case, and I don't think you can just blanket, I want all of our kids to be fully included. Because you know what? They don't all belong in full inclusion. They can't all access the curriculum. Why are we putting them in an environment that's not going to serve them? Because somebody told us full inclusion. Now that's what I see here now, and you know I say what I see, because that's me, I'm a bottom line person, and I think that needs to be reevaluated. I think you need special ed schools. I think you need special ed teachers. I think you need people that know how to serve people with special disabilities. And I don't think you should jump to a full inclusion model. General ed teachers have no idea what to do with kids with severe autism. They're running around the room, they don't know what to do, take the kid out of here, oh my God, they have no idea. So why are we doing that to anybody? One, the teacher, and two, the kid. We want to put the child in an environment where he can grow and be successful. And that's not always a full inclusion environment because somebody said full inclusion is the way to go. Putting a child with severe autism in a fully included classroom with general ed kids and a general ed teacher is not the way to do it. That kid's not going to make progress. He's going to run around the room for the next 12 years. And if that's what your idea of full inclusion is, and you think that's going to help him be successful, you're not thinking with the right vision.
That was Joanne Lara, the Executive Director of Autism Movement Therapy, Autism Works, and adjunct faculty to the National University. On behalf of everyone who participated in the FB Live program and Faith Bangladesh,
Yes,
I thank all of you and Joanne to be on this program.
Yeah, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.